Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Masks Off. I am Kim, and I'm so happy that you're here for another episode. I have a guest with me today, Ekua Walker, and we have a great conversation for you. But as always, I will begin with the quote, and the quote was shared by Ekua, and I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your workmanship is marvelous. How well I know it. Psalm 139, 13, 14. Ooh, I just got goosebumps. I just got goosebumps. What does that quote mean to you? What is the significance of it for you?
Sure. Yes, it's so powerful. Well, it's really my life verse. It's full of the truth from the Bible that, that God has made us all. Like, right before this passage, it talks about God has knit us together in our mother's womb, intricately, wonderfully, purposefully, so that, we are, a wonderful masterpiece, a workmanship, of God, and with a purpose and a plan. And so as in my growing and in my life, as I came to really understand that, mm, the power of that and just how amazing I am and everybody else is because of that. Oh, it really helped me deal with the masks, that we're going to be talking about today. And this essence, just helped me ground myself so much in celebrating who I am, not comparing myself to anybody else, and not lacking in anything, because I'm just wonderfully and beautifully made. And so, I could talk about that all day, but
Yeah,
I
well,
think it,
and
it
I'm
does
glad.
provide. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that quote, number one. And number two, it's going to segue beautifully into our conversation. And before we do get into the conversation, I invite you to just share a little bit about who you are and let the audience know what makes you you.
As you said, my name is Ekua Walker. I am a child development nurse practitioner. I am a parent coach. I am a CEO, a chief encouragement officer. I am the creator of the Be Calm parenting program that I support families with. I'm a mom, I am a wife, I'm a sister, a daughter, so many hats that I wear. But I'm excited, to be here today to talk with you about kind of all of those things and my passion for supporting parents to be able to manage those moments. We all have those moments with our children that are overwhelming, that are tantrums, outbursts that kind of bring us to a head. With our children, and the Be Calm parenting system that I support families with is all about turning those up into opportunities, turning that overwhelm into an opportunity to connect, an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to work through the emotions and the emotional intelligence that we have the gift to help our children. And remember, just as we are fearfully and wonderfully made, so are they. And they come with their intricacies and their, quirks and, their beauty. And all of that is a part of what we have the privilege, I think, as parents to nurture and to raise. And it's not always easy, but when we can come at it from that calmer place, that more mindful, present place, so much can happen in those moments and before and after as well.
That's beautiful. It's a beautiful segue into what we were talking about before we press record. And so I just had this intuitive hit today that I wanted and needed to talk about how we lose that connection to our inner knowing, that inner voice that knows what's best for us. And I think that we also lose this connection with our worthiness. And as you were saying, like our essence, and that we are all wonderfully and beautifully made. And first I'll pause for a second and say that what I use for myself is that we are all the ocean, right? We're all the ocean, which is the same as God made the ocean, the energy that runs through the ocean, that runs through the sun, the trees. We're all that. We're all that divine energy. And everything else is just waves on the ocean. But what I feel that so often happens, and this is when the masks do come on, is that we become so identified that we are the waves, and we forget that we are also the ocean.
Mm,
And
interesting.
when we become identified with the waves, and we think that every thought, every feeling, every messaging that is imparted on us is who we are. We think we are our masks, whatever masks that we have learned to put on to protect ourselves. We think we are that. And we forget that we are wonderfully made. We forget that. And so then we forget to trust, or how to trust that inner knowing. And then, so for me, that happened as a child. I was told that the things that I thought or believed or did were wrong or bad, or no, do it this way, or this is how you should do it, and don't do that because blah, blah, on and on and on and on. And then it came to a point where in my adulthood, I didn't know how to trust and know what was best for me. How do I navigate this? I had all these voices telling me of how I should be doing things, how I should be doing it, and not pausing long enough to tap into what does my intuition, my gut tell me to do. And I see this happening so much with our kids, and that we as parents don't necessarily provide a space or container to allow our children to let that intuition, that essence, to grow. We shut it down instead. And I thought this would be a really interesting conversation, because you are a parent coach and a parent
Right.
yourself, and you're a
Right.
pediatrician, and you're an advocate for mental health. So I want to
Right.
hear what you have to say, what thoughts or feelings or experiences you have with what I just described.
Sure, sure. What came up for me was my own journey. It started for me. I was born in Ghana, and we came to California when I was 4 years old. And so, in kind of my 4-year-old eyes or mind, I went from this nurturing space where, everybody looked like me and I belonged and it was comfortable and it was home, to this new and foreign land where very few people looked like me. I was the stranger. I didn't know the language. I I stood out like a sore thumb, just all of those things. And I think I remember just growing up, always just wondering, where do I fit in here? Like, where do I belong?
Mm.
And that was, I think, the part of my mask formation, and that I just wanted to fit in so much that I just took on, whatever was around me. And I took on whatever would please everybody else and whatever would make me the most accepted or make me the most praised or make me the most liked, right? And so it was a layering on from, I think we all do it in a very early age. And before I knew it, even though in pictures I was larger than everybody, and I was big, inside I felt really small, and I felt almost like invisible in some ways, and only wanted to be visible for the praise and for the accolades or for the acceptance or for the belonging. And so it was this, kind of, interesting contrast in that, on the outside, I felt like I felt like I looked big and I stood out, and I, was this like bright light, especially, or, in this, in this pool of people who didn't look like me, right? And yet inside I was very shy. I was very closed off, and I wanted to hide a lot, or just blend in, right? Become, just become as small as I could be. And so I think, some of what you were saying as far as, yeah, the messages and what we need to do, what we should do, the good girl, all of those things were absolutely a factor of that. And I do see that with, with the children and the families that I, work with. And then as a parent, it takes on, like you said, a whole nother level, because now I'm seeing this, seeing the process of growing and nurturing, as from the parent perspective versus the child perspective. And I do want to open that door so that my children can be heard, so that they can speak out, they can shine bright for all of the amazingness, that they are, and that they feel comfortable and confident to do that. And thankfully, I do see much more of that, that brightness that I wish I had as much confidence as they do, at 9 and 12 years old, and so yeah, it's finding out that balance and figuring that for all of us.
That's beautiful. So maybe we can tap into like doing like an actual how-to kind of thing. So let's say for example, your 12-year-old says, Mom, I want to go and try out for this particular sport. And inside you're saying that let's just say, is it your son or daughter that's 12?
Both two girls, so daughter.
Two girls. Okay, so your daughter says she's 12 years old and she wants to go and try out for the football team, the modified football team. And every part of your being is like, oh God, no, right? No, you don't want to do that. You can't do that. Don't try out for the football team. And yet you don't want to like dim her light. You don't want to squash her. So how do you navigate? Because that's like where it begins, right? Because some parents could easily come off and say, what are you thinking?
Right.
Right?
That's crazy. No way.
Crazy. Are you ridiculous? Why would you ever think such a thing?
Even think that.
And what does that do to that 12-year-old mind? Well, you just, Frank, small.
Right.
Mom just said, what's wrong with you
for even thinking about that?
What's wrong with you for feeling like that? And in her mind, she's the biggest.
The world is open.
Right? Like the world
that's hers.
On the football team.
Yeah.
So how do you navigate that? Like for any parents or people that might be listening, how do we navigate and start to shift this paradigm?
Right. So so I go through the steps of Be Calm. So it's an acronym. And so B and E start us off with breathe and empathy. And so, especially when children tell us something that we're not ready for, if all that you do is you take a deep, giant breath to give yourself a pause, right? Before you say anything, and take your time to breathe and just really basically get that oxygen to your brain. Keep the pathways that want to flip, the amygdala, and the midbrain into the fight or flight and panic mode, right? If you can just breathe and stay connected and grounded in the body enough, you have a fighting chance of accessing your, prefrontal cortex, your reasoning mind and your controlled mind. Right?
Yeah.
And so if we don't start with some way of grounding yourself and catching yourself and calming yourself before, you respond, then you're just going to react. You're just going to knee jerk, right? All the things that we were just saying. And oftentimes that does not serve the situation and that does not go in the direction that we want, right? So if we can start with that B, that breathe, and then move into the E, empathize, right? Put ourselves in her situation. Is there something that was bigger than life that we wanted at that age now, right? We can all find a spot in ourselves where we had a dream, we had an interest, we had a desire, right? And maybe everybody else around us thought it was crazy. And maybe we did it anyway, or maybe we didn't do it, right? What all of those things bring us to a place where we can find a place of empathy with our child. And if we can start off that I feel like that is half of the battle, because if we can ground ourselves and then we can find that empathy connection, then we're ready for the calm, sections of the process. So C is connect, right? And we want to connect before we correct. So of course, the first thing that often comes is the problem solving. Like let's change her mind. Let's figure out a way to get out of this. But if we're empathizing and we can understand, wow, yes, I've had a dream and I've wanted somebody to support my dream. So then I can say, wow, that's amazing, right? Like that is an incredible dream. And just start off with celebrating, the amazingness of that dream. And a lot of the situations are wow or yes and, right? Yes, and let's think more about this. Let's figure this out together, right? And so then we move into the A and the L that kind of go hand in hand, and that's ask and then listen, right? So if we're in a calmer place, we're much better positioned to ask more helpful questions, right? What would that look like? To be a part of the football team, like what's the practice schedule, like tell me more, right? Like get all the information, because it could be that it could be that it's a part of the school day, and it could fit the schedule. It could be something that she could try and see. She probably has to try out first, right? So she would have to have some skills, right? And so it might not even be an option if she doesn't have the right skills going into it. And so if I say no, she doesn't even know if she, is up for it, right? Or is into it. And so these situations, have happened with my older one, who is the like, let's try everything. and I love it because I was the opposite. And so in catching that and celebrating with her, having the enthusiasm for why not try and see like where it's going to lead. And oftentimes, the situation, the circumstances, the details, the parameters help the situation move in the way that it should, right? And there's things that she's tried out for and she just hasn't made it, because of the skill set, and that's okay. She tried, we celebrated that, and she knows what to work on. If she really wants to, then we can make an action plan and work towards that for the next time around. And there's stuff that she's tried out for and she's gotten it, and it's been amazing because it did fit her skills and it did fit her interest, and it was the right time and space and place. And so if we can ask and really listen, really get all the information, really talk it through with them, then at the end of it, we can mindfully, mend. We can mindfully meet in the middle. Whatever M's work for you as far as how to think about that, you can be in that but much better place to then problem solve. And notice that's at the end, right? We didn't do that until we got through all of the breathing and the empathizing and the connecting, and really making that connection a moment that you have, for some kind of positive celebration, some kind of acknowledgement, right, of the fearful, wonderful, even if it's an idea that is like, I'm going to build a house tomorrow. Oh my goodness, like you have the creativity and the desire to build a house. That's amazing, right? There's always something we can celebrate and connect over. Mm-hmm. And then we, after we've gone through a few more steps, and you bought yourself some time as well, right? With all of this too, you mindfully meant, and you might, and at the end there for that encounter, it might be, hey, let's keep talking about this. Let's keep working this out. Let's get, let's call this person or that person, or, let's do our homework, right? It could be that you don't have to make a decision right there. And often, it's best not to.
Yeah, exactly. Well, first of all, I just want to say, I wish you were like, can you be my mom? I feel so calm in your presence. Oh my gosh, I could use you. But what I heard you say, and what I heard from that, is that would allow or does allow your daughter or any child going through that process of be calm to be able to then circle back, and she would know that she was coming from, you're allowing her to come from her own decision making, Like even after gathering all that information, like you said, ask and then learn.
Mhm.
Like, let's get all the details. In this hypothetical situation, your daughter might say, you know what, after knowing what the schedule is like and what I have to wear, the equipment and everything, I don't think I really want to play or try out for modified football.
Mhm.
That comes
Mhm.
from her
Mhm.
own then knowing. Or
Yeah.
she might say, sounds pretty good still, I'm going to go and try this. But the key
Right.
is that you're allowing her the
Yeah.
space, and that's the difference. And I want to
Mhm.
also add in
Mhm.
and underscore that in order to be in that space to do what you just beautifully outlined, you have had to have done a certain amount of work on yourself to
Mhm.
get to that point, to be in that kind of like, yes, you did say in the beginning, breathe. We all know we need to
Right.
breathe, but you still,
Right.
like you said, I came from a place in my childhood of playing small. And so rather
Right.
than projecting that onto your daughter who wants to try everything and be big, you have had enough awareness of your own patterns that could come up that you're like, "Oh, I can't project this on her. I can't stifle her and make her be small too because of what my experience was as a kid." And that's
Mhm.
beautiful. What a beautiful gift for you and for your kids.
Yeah, yeah. And it has been a journey because it hasn't always been, that I've been in that space. And that was a big part of what pushed me to understand mindfulness and to do the self work and to, do the classes, do the training and do the meditation to understand, why is it that, my knee jerk is to cut off or to say no, or, why is my starting place that the impossible instead of the possible, right? And it's been years of work to cultivate that, and bring and see that and work that through with clients and patients in the clinical setting. And I have to say that this example was a real example that a family went through with their teen daughter. And I have to say that I'm always learning from the families that I work with as well. And I learned from that mom how to make space for such a big dream, and she did amazing on it. And then when the physicality of it got to be, a little bit too much, she became the team assistant or team manager.
Mhm.
And so she still was able to fulfill and find her place
Yeah.
that, that high school football team at her school. And she would sing the national anthem. Like, I mean, just, it was incredible, like how
Yeah.
she was able to find her place and find her space, because her mom and dad gave her the room to explore all of that. And of course, it was not easy. There are, I'm sure, a lot of
There are light
handlight
moments.
moments, right?
Yes. That's
But
so wild to me though, that I brought up the example of football and that was a
yeah,
real situation that you
it's a
encountered.
real, it
That's
was a real situation.
Oh my goodness.
And
Well, I love again that you just outline your process. I think it's beautiful. I think it's so incredibly helpful. It's accessible. I'm sure that many people who are listening to this podcast are going to be able to find it useful like that for sure. So I enjoyed this conversation so much. And I'm just going to round out by asking you a few rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
let's do it.
Okay. What is your favorite food?
Oh, that's a good one. So there's a Ghanaian dish called red from my homeland, and it's basically fried plantain. So the macho bananas that get real sweet and
Mm,
caramelized when you fry them, and you can put ginger and different spices on it. And then you serve it with black-eyed peas that are cooked in this palm oil broth that has like salted fish. It has a real like earthiness to it, and it's just so luxurious. I'm always like, oh, I feel like I could just take a bath in it, like just dive in, right? Because it's just so luxurious. So in that combination of the soft and the creamy and you can make it spicy and sweet and salty. It's an
mm.
amazing party in the mouth.
Amazing part. I love that. I love it.
Yeah, yeah.
If you could go anywhere in the world, where would you go?
Hmm. I think it's been so long since I've been to Ghana that Ghana would probably be the place to take. We haven't taken our girls, and I think they're at that perfect age that we're looking at getting, a trip together so that we can make that connection, with home, so that I can share, my home and culture even more,
Yeah.
with them.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
beautiful. What's
yeah.
your favorite way to take care of yourself?
That's a good one. I love to have these weekend getaways. It doesn't happen, all the time, but I try to plan it every couple of months, by myself to go to a beach. And it's nice that you mentioned ocean because I do feel that connection to the whole world and to God, just with that vastness when I'm at the
Yeah.
beach, at the ocean. And so I'll just, get a quiet, tucked away place, for a couple of days and have that time to do that reflection, to do that just me time, to do that pampering, to take a nap, to do whatever I want, you know, and just enjoy that refresh for myself. And when I come back to the family, they're excited too because we've all had that opportunity to change things up a little bit.
Good for you. Oh my gosh, that sounds great. Name one book that changed your life. If you can name
Mm. Well, I mean, I guess I can use the Bible.
one.
Because that's one
Yes,
that I'm actually digging into even more this year. Kind of made a commitment to dive in and understand it well. And you growing up in the church, you hear it and you're surrounded by it. But when I've been digging into it for myself, finding the truths of what God has to say to me for the season that I'm in right now, even verses that I've known and memorized as a child take on a whole new life just because of who I am and where I am and all of that. So if there's one life-changing book, that would have to be it.
wonderful. And last thing is one tip or takeaway for the listeners.
Tip or takeaway. Yeah, if you can just take that step back, and for even just 5 minutes, give yourself a chance to just be in the moment. And whether you connect best through breathing, or you connect best through like a body scan, or you connect best through visualization or prayer, if you can just give yourself, 5 to 10 minutes, in the morning, often we'll start off the day, in that more grounded way. You will like give yourself a gift for the entire day with that deposit of even 5 or 10 minutes. Mindfulness, experts, recommend 20 minutes if you can kind of work up to that. And that's amazing if you can. But even I found, even with a couple of minutes, less than 5 minutes, shifts my whole perspective, helps me to say it's okay. It's gonna be an amazing day.
Mm.
And I can be calm in the different situations that come my way. All right. So finding that few minutes will be such a gift for you and your family.
Beautiful. And lastly, how can the listeners find you?
Yes, you can find me online. The Be Calm program is www.becalmparenting.com, and you'll see that I have a webinar that introduces all of this for you to take advantage of for free. And then there's a way to have a strategy session with me to see how we can partner together. You can also listen to me at Moms Changing the World, and that's my podcast where I talk to amazing moms who are doing incredible things to raise world changers. And thus, we are all, as moms, world changers. And so you can find that at my name or Moms Changing the World, any of the podcast platforms or the website, momschangingtheworld.org, O-R-G for that one.
Beautiful.
And yeah, any of those websites, or my email, momsctw for Moms Changing the World, at Gmail is how you can find me there.
Awesome. And of course, I will put all that in the show notes as well. So this has been really a great conversation. Oh my gosh, I just feel so connected to you and so lit up by it. So thank you so much for
Same.
being here.
Thank you for having me as well. This was
It's
wonderful.
really amazing how like you can get together. We've never met before. We're just
Right?
meeting just prior to recording, and how you can have such a quick connection with someone that you've never met before is just absolutely amazing and awesome. So thank you so much.
Thank you for this beautiful platform, this incredible space to talk about a subject that we don't talk about enough. And I think the concept and idea of masks definitely came to light with all the global pandemic that we are dealing with and the layers of meaning that it means to really take it off. So thank you.
You're welcome. So thank you everybody for joining another episode of Masks Off. And if you liked what you heard today, I would love if you would subscribe or leave a review, and I will see you next time on Masks Off.